Welcome to the Women's Bar Association of Illinois cable show. And I'm Judge Patrice Ball-Reed, one of the co-hosts of the show. The other co-host is Judge Jessica Wrong O'Brien, who's the president of the Women's Bar Association. Her theme this year is Leave No Woman Behind, Empowering Through Leadership. And in these two segments of the show, we are interviewing the partners of Blair, Cavarelli, Erman, and Enright. I interviewed two persons in this second show. Judge Jessica Wrong O'Brien is going to interview the other two partners. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Hello, thank you so much for joining us tonight. You are the founding members of Blair, Cavarelli, Erman, and Enright. So what I want to focus on with you tonight is with you, Deanna, first of all, how both of you met.
We met at our last firm. I started in about 2003, and Alia joined the firm in 2005, and that's where we met and became friends.
Okay, and you left that firm, the first firm where you met, 7 years later, am I right?
Yes, in 2010 we left that firm.
So you were practicing there for
7 years. I was there 7 years.
7 years, and then you joined 2 years after you were already there. So you practiced together for 5 years.
Yes.
Okay, and then you both left together as well.
We did.
Okay, was there a reason, and was that a good move, looking back?
Looking back, it was a great move. It was the best move I've made in my career so far, I think.
Oh, that's good.
Great. It's
okay.
good to be practicing with friends. And we left in 2010. We really wanted to sort of be in charge of our own destinies, and we took a big leap.
That was a big move, though, wasn't it?
It was. It was very scary.
Okay, and walk us through exactly what you did after you left, when you started your firm, what you had to do to build your business.
Well, the first day we left, we had no idea if we were going to have any clients with us, of course, so that was our scariest part, was figuring out whether we had any clients that would come with us or not. So the first thing we did after we left was reach out to all of our clients. We had to locate office space, and we did all of this very quickly. The first day we actually ran everything out of my living room because Alia had court in DuPage County that day, and then we went and looked at office space and booked space that day, and luckily all of our clients came with us, so that was a huge relief, an immense relief. But we didn't know that when we left, so.
Well, that speaks volumes of how you treated your clients. Obviously, they must have been really happy with your services for them to follow you.
I think so. They were happy with us, they went with us, yeah.
Did you find an office right away?
We did. The first day we went out, we looked at a space, and we went to lunch and talked about it and went right back and told them we were going to sign the lease and jumped right in.
Okay.
We were carrying our laptops on wheelie bags that day, so jumped right into it.
Well, I'm going to take you backwards in time, okay? Before you even went to law school. Where were you born and raised? Let me start with Alia here. Well, you were born in Chicago. You were raised and born here in Chicago.
I was.
Okay. And your parents were educators? They were professionals, weren't they?
They were professionals. They were not educators.
Okay.
But they met at UIC, and which is where my husband and I met.
Okay.
Many years later.
Your good-looking husband, you met him at UIC, mm-hmm. and you guys have a really great relationship. Well, you worked through. While you were working, you were going to your undergrad, you worked through school.
I did. I worked full-time through college and law school.
What was your major?
My major in college was English. I knew that I wanted to go to law school fairly quickly into my undergrad career, so
Was that your childhood dream?
It was not, actually.
Okay.
I went to UIC specifically and was in a 5-year directly to master's program in marketing. Because my father, who at that time was in management at General Mills in Minneapolis, would come home all the time and complain about these kids, as he called them, making twice as much money as he did with not as much experience as he had. And I was like, well, how did they do that? And he said they all had master's degrees in marketing. So I knew nothing about it. I just knew that I wanted to never have to struggle financially. But
why law school?
So I did end up working as a receptionist in college for a law firm, and I loved it, instantly loved it. Loved everything about the practice of law, even though the firm I was at, was questionable in some of its behaviors, I'd have to say, but that's where I learned about family law.
Well, because you love law school and you love the law, let's stop right there and let's take a quick break.
In 1990, in Severn, Maryland, the daughter of a clergyman was discovered by a music industry insider while pumping gas at a service station. The odds of her getting signed and spending 11 weeks at #1 on the U.S. singles charts? 1 in 19 million. The odds of this former church choir singer going on to sell 40 million records? 1 in 15 million. The odds of the same woman winning 7 Grammy Awards and starring in 2 Broadway plays? 1 in 75 million. The odds of this musician and performer having a child diagnosed with autism? 1 in 68. I'm Toni Braxton, and I encourage you to learn more at autismspeaks.org/signs. Early diagnosis can make a lifetime of difference.
We left off with you saying how much you love the law, so let's start there. You said you were interested in family law.
The firm that I worked at had one attorney who practiced family law, and I just loved her. I loved her practice. I loved how varied her practice was on a day-to-day basis. And so I changed course, got out of the marketing program, and went to English because that was the fastest path to graduation for me, so that I could go to law school. She still practices to this day. Every time I see her when I walk by her in court, she does not practice family law anymore, but every time I see her when I walk into court, I always give her credit for having sent me down this path. I could be a middle management in General Mills right now, and instead I'm fortunate enough to be an attorney in Chicago.
Is that a good thing?
It's a good thing.
Sort of, right?
Most days. Most days it's a good thing. Today it's a good thing.
All right. Well, I know that you work all the way through undergrad as well as law school.
Correct.
And you worked in law firms throughout that time.
I did.
That is excellent. That is great. Hardworking. And anything that you want to share with our viewers as far as, if somebody who wants to go to law school, they should work in a law firm first, and what position would they apply for?
I think that, especially because the market for lawyers today is so difficult, and that the starting salaries for lawyers, unless you are graduating in the top 5% of your class from an excellent school, is so low in comparison to what you have to take out in loans, I would say a couple of things. One, if you are required to take out loans in order to go to law school, you should do everything you can to mitigate those loans. Work, take a year off and work that year. I know Deanna did that in between her college year and try not to, because those loans will haunt you for the rest of your life.
I know how that feels.
and I think one thing that has been particularly successful for me in terms of getting my first job before I even started law school, and is still successful for me to this day, is that if people notice a difference if you're genuinely interested in what they do and what they are all about. And I love people, so I spend a lot of time talking to people. I know you do too. And so
it depends, but generally.
I've seen you. You love plenty of people. And so when you do that and you express an interest in somebody's job and then ask them for help afterwards, after you've established a relationship with them, they are the people who help get you in the door, as you and I were discussing before the show, get you your first job.
When you're talking about first job after law school?
Or in my instance, I actually got my first job while in law school. I didn't have a lawyer job per se locked in while I was in law school, but I worked at a law firm, and the odds were fairly good that they were going to keep me on once I graduated, which worked out well for me.
And that's always a big challenge, though, for somebody, and I think that was a big law firm or a mid-sized firm that you had worked. It's a big law firm, and sometimes they don't always hire you. How did you do it? How did you make them hire you?
You have to get to know everybody. You have to be a hard worker, and that is no joke. You have got to work hard. There is no Facebook surfing at big law firms when you are an associate or working your way into an associate position. You have to work very hard. And on top of that, you have to be smart about how you navigate the politics of that firm. You have to get to know all of the people who are decision makers there, and hopefully your hard work will make them like you, because what they care about ultimately is the bottom line in a firm, and so they like to see people working and billing. Get to know them, make them want to help promote you, and that's something that I worked very, very hard at. And not just, I guess that kind of comes off sounding very like
promoting? But it's okay, but you're right,
only
though.
being interested in myself, but I enjoy doing that. Like, I enjoyed getting to know all these people. These people are still my friends to this day. You and I were discussing mutual friends at this very same firm. It helps to have that interest in people, because that helps motivate you to do those things and come off because I genuinely enjoy them, not because I'm doing it to make my career better.
You know, that's interesting that you're saying that, because nowadays, you went to that seminar, the forum with civility seminar. That was basically the gist of their conversation, is that we have to remember that the legal profession is really a service-oriented profession, and we have to go with the times that now everybody's on the internet, and so we have to follow the trend, and as lawyers we have to keep up with our customers, which are our clients. So,
or as an associate in a law firm, your customers are actually the partners that you work for, or the senior associates who are assigning you work. You obviously you have to please your clients.
And your clients in a large firm are those partners?
For the most part, yes.
Okay. Well, let me go to Deanna. Deanna, you have a very interesting background. You were born and raised in Boulder, Colorado, and I think you have shared with me that you were born and really you were living in a trailer.
Yes, when I was born, my family lived in a trailer in the mountains, actually, slightly outside of Boulder. So we lived there until I was probably 5, I think, in the mountains. And then we moved actually into the city in Boulder.
Okay.
And I lived there till I was 19.
And then you went to high school in Boulder as well?
I did.
Okay.
Yes.
And then from there you went to college in also the same area, am I right? Seattle, okay. And then tell us about that experience while you were in Seattle.
I went to college at the Evergreen State College, which is an interesting school. There's no grades at that school. It's all very oriented around one core program, so I just took one class every semester for full credit load. And no grades. Your grades are really just written evaluations. So my transcript from college when I applied to law school was about 1.5 inches thick of lots and lots of written evaluations. So it was a really interesting college experience.
Okay. And then you met your husband there too, right?
In high school, actually. I met
in high
high
school.
school.
Okay.
Yes.
Is that a good thing?
It's a good thing. I've known him forever.
Okay. And then when did you decide that you wanted to go to law school?
I decided I wanted to go to law school in college because one of my friends was sexually assaulted in college, and we felt very powerless in terms of negotiating with the college because the person that attacked her was also a student, and I really felt like if one of us was a lawyer, we could run in and save the day, and I went to law school to try and save the day for somebody else.
That is a very interesting point. I think we should take a break right now and we'll pick it up from there at the next segment.
There's one thing you can never have sex without.
It's not something you buy.
Or something you take.
In fact, there's only one way to get it.
It has to be given to you, freely.
It's consent.
Because sex without it isn't sex.
It's rape. Consent.
If you don't get it, you don't get it. It's on us to stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
Deanna, we had stopped at the point when you were telling us about your friend who was raped, which is a very tragic incident, and that compelled you, or at least encouraged you, to pursue law school. Am I right?
It did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit more about that.
It was a terrible situation. Obviously, it was very upsetting. I went to college in the 90s. There weren't a lot of policies in place for how to deal with sexual assault on campus. And so the school was sort of figuring out that process as well. And we worked hard with the school. We set up the Rape Response Coalition, where we were in charge of assisting the school with drafting written guidelines for how to deal with sexual assault on campus. We did trainings for incoming students. I think it was terrible. It was an awful experience, but what came out of it was something good, and I think that was empowering to my friend too, who was hurt in the process because she felt like she took control. So was.
Did they
very
catch
hard.
the bad guy?
They did.
The rapist?
They did.
And he went to jail,
He
hopefully?
did not go to jail.
Okay.
And that is one of the reasons why I went to law school.
They have all these big stories nowadays, too, that about rapes and all these crimes committed in college. That supposedly all these colleges are suppressing the information because obviously they don't want to have a bad reputation. So that's interesting.
That was one of the factors in our situation, and that my friend reported it to the campus police instead of the local police department.
And they probably were saying, well, are you sure?
Yes.
Maybe you were drunk, right?
Yes.
Okay, there's actually a lot of documentaries about that. So then you decided to go to law school.
I did.
Okay,
And I went
tell
to law
us about
school
that.
in Portland, Oregon. I thought my way of saving the world might be to become an environmental lawyer, so I went to an environmental law school. And I love Portland. It's a beautiful city. It's great. And I practiced.
Rains a lot.
It does rain a lot, but it's beautiful.
But you can save the world there.
Right. And then I practiced for a year.
Okay.
After law school, I practiced at Legal Aid in Portland for a year before I moved to Chicago.
You were in legal aid, and was there a reason why you wanted to work there?
Again, I wanted to save the world.
Okay.
So I was assisting people that had no access to funds to hire lawyers, and I did a lot of eviction work there, housing defense, and then I also did orders of protection, a lot of order of protection work there too.
That's very noble of you, and I've always known you to be that very community-minded. And you're right, we need the legal aid in order to help the individuals who can't represent themselves. So you work for the legal aid for a year, and then you moved to Chicago with your husband. Am I right? Okay, your husband got a job here.
He got a job here, and
Okay.
we'd never been to Chicago, and we didn't know anybody here, and he applied for a job and said to me, I got the offer, do you want to make a giant leap and do something totally different? And I said, sure. I had to take the bar again here, which after taking the bar exam, I wasn't so excited about having taken the second leap because it was a lot of work, but in retrospect, it was a good decision, and I'm really happy that we're here.
So of course you passed the bar, and where was your first job?
With the firm where I met Alia.
Oh, okay. And why family law?
I became really interested in family law working at Legal Aid, doing the orders of protection work, and I had one custody case while I was there that really sparked my interest.
Now, when you were applying at that first firm, you didn't really have that much experience in family law, am I right?
I did not have a lot of experience.
How did you get yourself that job?
Well, I'd been in court on some orders of protection, and I'd been in court on eviction cases, and I'd handled a custody case, so I actually had a lot more trial experience. Even though all of it might not have necessarily been in the area of family law, I had a lot of practical experience that let my then boss know that I was capable of being in court and handling my own work.
Did you have any other interests? What happened to the environmental law?
When I went to law school and started studying environmental law, I realized that it was dry and very statute-based.
And family law isn't?
Yes, no, not at all. It's very human-oriented, and I really wanted to work with people and to get to know people.
It's also very combative, though, isn't it?
Some days it is.
But I think your personality, you neutralize that, and you're a great listener, so that's probably one of the skills that you need in that area, don't you think?
Thank you. I mean,
Maybe you can tell me, what are the skills that you need in order to be successful in the family law area?
I think you have to have a high tolerance for drama. I think you have to have a lot of patience. And I think you have to have a sense of justice for your clients and to really feel like you understand that you are impacting their life.
Alia, you want to add to that?
I think that every type of lawyer or every personality that a lawyer may have could be a successful family lawyer, because there is a lid for every pot. For a client who's looking for someone like me to provide a more human, emotional connection as they're going through a terrible time in their life, there are just as many clients out there that are looking for someone to treat it as a straight business transaction. I'm going to pay you my money, get that job done. So I don't think that there's any one. I do agree with Deanna. You do have to have a tolerance. You have to have a lot of patience, and you have to have a high tolerance for drama. But I think that so long as you have those base skills down, that you could be any kind of lawyer, sympathetic, social worker kind of lawyer, which I think is probably what I tend to be, and maybe Deanna tends to be a little bit, to someone who's just literally no emotion involved, no hand-holding involved, and be successful at it too. It's interesting the array of types of lawyers that we have in our division, particularly here in Cook County.
You know, that's interesting though, because I think a lot of times it's your past that really shapes the way you practice as well, right? And I'm sure that we can go on with another show with you, both of you, telling me what shaped the way you practice, your leadership philosophies, and the way you manage and practice family law. But I think we're going to end it here. Any last words, any last advice for everyone, for our viewers?
I just want to say thank you for having us.
Of course, thank you for having us.
No, thank you. Thank you so much for being here. That ends our segment.